All right, guys, welcome to another video. This is probably the best return on investment I've ever gotten for like a self-improvement book. This is When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel J. Smith. And this book, when I say that I've gone through it maybe 4 or 5 times now, and each time I go through the book, it gets even more valuable. I wish I was exaggerating, but that is the case. This book is gold. And it says a lot about me. It says a lot about the childhood that I had growing up. But in essence, this is all about assertiveness, teaching you what your rights are as a human being and teaching you how to cope with other humans without fighting with them or without running from them, without getting submissive and placid and just letting them walk all over you, and also without losing your cool and beating anybody up. This teaches you how to navigate these really tough social situations, like your boss giving you criticism, for example, or dealing with not the most trustworthy car salesman. This book teaches you how to cope in those scenarios and how to, if at the very least not get your way, you could at least walk away with dignity, not feeling like you got cheated or walked over or disrespected, right? And so, with all that being said, I'm going to read to you the 10 rights that you have, right? These are this is your Bill of Assertive Rights, okay? And I would like to say, before I read this, these are all things that when you hear them, you're going to go, duh. But very rarely do we behave as if these things are true, okay? So, number 1, you have the right to judge your own behavior, thoughts, and emotions, and to take responsibility for their initiation and consequences upon yourself. Number 2, you have the right to offer no reasons or excuses for justifying your behavior. Number 3, you have the right to judge if you are responsible for finding solutions to other people's problems. Number 4, you have the right to change your mind. Number 5, you have the right to make mistakes and to be responsible for them. Number 6, you have the right to say, I don't know. Number 7, you have the right to be independent of the goodwill of others before coping with them. Number 8, you have the right to be illogical in making decisions. Number 9, you have the right to say, I don't understand. And number 10, you have the right to say, I don't care. Now, obviously, we all know that we can do these things whenever we want, but very rarely do we behave as if these things are true. We oftentimes find ourselves falling into these kind of scenarios where certain rules are active in certain zones and you can't speak a certain way to somebody who's above you, or there's no way for you to handle a situation when you're at the doctor's office because they have complete authority and they're just going to start poking you and putting things in your body, and you're not allowed to say no. You're not allowed, there are certain scenarios where we will self-impose rules upon ourselves, because a lot of times as you read through this book and as you start to practice assertiveness, you'll find that if you don't make people spell things out, you only are going to be relying on what they are implying. And a lot of times, what people are implying can be pretty nasty, pretty brutal. They can be putting you into a position where like you're ignorant and you don't know what you're doing or what you're talking about, and you're just supposed to comply with them just based off the implications. And when you kind of prompt them to spell out what they mean, I don't understand. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? Right? And doing so in a way that doesn't necessarily come off as provocative or like you're trying to agitate them, but like you are genuinely curious. Like you have the right to say, I don't understand. What are you talking about, dude? And you'll see either they're going to stop trying to manipulate you, right? And that's a word that when you learn it in this context, you're going to want to like kind of get upset at people like, oh, you're trying to manipulate me. But the truth is we all manipulate each other. We're humans. We try to get people to do things for us or to do them a certain way, right? It's just a part of the game. Try not to take it too personally. But yes, people are trying to manipulate you. And when you can kind of call them out and make them spell it out and say, hey, I want you to be this specific way, they oftentimes they won't do it. They'll back down. They'll stop trying to manipulate you. They will say something's wrong with you. You're crazy. You can't be changed. You can't be manipulated, right? You're not worth my time. Or they'll have a change of heart. A lot of times they'll have a change of heart. They'll come to see your side because they respect you more because you stood up for yourself, right? Some people are just, this is a game of persistence. If we're talking about assertiveness, it is a game of persistence, right? If you were to imagine that there's two parties having a conflict, no hands are flying, nobody's running away, no tears, but they're having a verbal conflict. If both parties have a bag and that bag is filled with no's, the person who has the most no's wins. That's it. It's a game of persistence. So if the cashier at the McDonald's has 3 no's in his bag and you have 4, well, then you're going to win. I didn't mess up your order. Yeah, I'm looking at the receipt. You messed up my order. No, I think you just ordered it wrong. Are you sure? I don't believe that I ordered it wrong. Maybe I did, possibly, but is it possible that you also placed it wrong, right? You could, again, get them to exhaust their nose. And if you have more than them and you know how to navigate a situation and you know how to accept criticism, you even know how to ask for more criticism, right? If you can be comfortable being criticized, right? These are all just some of the elements of the book. Again, the book goes into so much more detail, and I'm just scratching the surface. But before we end off, I'm going to read to you some of the tools in this book that you can use when it comes to being assertive, okay? The very first skill is broken record, and this is calmly repeating what it is you want so that you are not set aside on any side tangent that the other person is offering you. So, for example, you can go to a grocery store and you can say, hey, you guys forgot my ham, right? I ordered ham at the deli and you guys didn't bring the ham. And they say, well, is it possible that you dropped it somewhere or that you left it in your car? And you say, no, I want my ham. You guys didn't give me my ham, right? You repeat yourself as if you were a broken record. And they say, well, the deli's about to close. Maybe you can come back tomorrow. It's possible you'll find them at the house. Maybe you just forgot. And you say, no, you guys didn't give me my ham. I forgot my ham, right? And, they'll give you another excuse, trying to manipulate you, trying to imply that, hey, you're holding up the line. You're being a bad civilian. You're being unreasonable or unruly. And you just calmly and very politely just repeat, no, you guys didn't give me my ham. I would like my ham, right? I would like to go home soon, and I would like my ham, right? To everything that they say to you, they might call you fat, right? They might call you ugly. Oh, you're being stinky. You're being rude. And you say, no, I just would like my ham, right? You just repeat yourself. Broken record, probably the most powerful tool that is listed in this book. The next one is going to be fogging. So verbatim from the book, it says, a skill that teaches acceptance of manipulative criticism by calmly acknowledging to your critic the probability that there may be some truth in what he says, yet allows you to remain your own judge of what you do. So, for example, somebody is calling you ugly and you say, yeah, that may be true. I may be a little bit ugly. I could see how you could come to that conclusion. They say, well, you are, you're stinky too. And you say, yeah, I might be a little bit stinky today. Sometimes that happens, right? And then they continue to throw all these insults at you, and you just calmly agree with them. Really what you're agreeing with is the possibility of those things being true, or at least those things being true from their perspective. You never have to actually change your perspective on yourself and agree with the fact that you're ugly or you're stinky or you're a bad father or you do too much coke. I don't know what you're doing. Hopefully it's not coke, but you get what I'm saying, right? You can agree with the possibility, right? But you don't have to accept it as a truth about yourself, right? You can keep your dignity. Free information. So this is from the book, a skill that teaches the recognition of simple cues given by a social partner in everyday conversation to indicate what is interesting or important to that person. So This is just somebody giving you a little bit of information about themselves. They're saying, hey, this is what I value. This is something that's cool to me. Oh, I went to school at Cambridge, right? And that's free information that you didn't prompt them for. It's not information that was required for the interaction. They just gave it to you. And oftentimes, if you want to like get really good with girls, right? Learning how to like interpret free information. Anytime you're getting free information from a girl where they are giving you more than what is required to like get the conversation to its end as soon as possible. Anytime they're giving you free information, huge indicator that they are interested in you and would like to pursue some sort of sexual relationship, possibly. At the very least, they are very interested. Whenever somebody's giving you free information, just talking about themselves, just throwing out what they like, what they don't like, how they feel about certain things, just out of the blue, or just throwing it in there, right? That is always a huge sign that they are invested at some degree to getting to know you, or letting you get to know them. So take that with a grain of salt, or take that as you will. Negative assertion. So this is a skill that teaches acceptance of your errors and faults without having to apologize. By strongly and sympathetically agreeing with hostile or constructive criticism of your own negative qualities. So allows you to look more comfortably at negatives in your own behavior or personality without feeling defensive and anxious, or restoring to denial of real error while at the same time reducing your critics' anger or hostility. So this is somebody is being unreasonable with you. Like, this is the homeless person running up to you and saying, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And you're just saying, yes, you're right. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Awesome. That's negative assertion, right? They're calling you all these awful names. And instead of even trying to be like, I guess I should have explained fogging a little bit more. It's called fogging because you're like a fog bank, right? You throw something at it and nothing comes back out, okay? This would be kind of like fogging, but it is just letting them win. It's letting them win. So negative assertion is just letting them have the victory because it's not something that's really important. You don't necessarily have to opt in, and you're not going to lose anything by letting them win, right? They're being a little bit unreasonable. They're being angry. They're being hypercritical, right? They're saying things that they probably don't mean, and you're just, yes, sweet. Awesome. You're right. Yeah, I'm totally, I'm the worst. I know. Crucify me, right? That would be negative assertion, okay? And obviously you want to be nice. You want to be nice. You want to be gentle when you do all of these things. You don't want to do them. The tonality in which they are delivered is very important, okay? But you essentially want to be giving the message of, I'm unbothered, right? I can agree. Like, it's almost like a toddler setting the rules, like you're playing with the kid and they're saying, no, you can't do that. You lose because all of a sudden it's this. And you're just like, you're right. You're right, Timmy. You got me. Why didn't I know the rules are like that? Right? That would be negative assertion, right? You just win. You win because I'm so big. It doesn't matter. And it annihilates their attempts to manipulate you. They don't find you as a appetizing target when you negatively assert. Negative inquiry. This is one I'm working on a lot. This is one that I really, really enjoy. It makes people very uncomfortable. And it makes you feel amazing. I will say this. Every single thing in this book makes you feel amazing. When you learn how to use these skills, when you cope with somebody socially, right? It feels amazing. You feel bulletproof. You feel like you're just ready to get into the next interaction. You're ready to have the person knock at your door so you can run them through loops and like feel confident. It's just it can get to the point where you can be bullying. Like, this book will teach you how to bully people if you really do take these lessons to the extreme. It just, bullying happens and you have to learn how to not do it. For myself, that's something I'm working on. I used to be a very skinny kid. Now I'm a lot bigger. I am a lot more intimidating. And now that I know how to be assertive and I have this like unreasonable amount of confidence that most 25, 26-year-olds don't have, right? I find myself getting my way in situations where it is shocking to people. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you're just being mean. You're being, and it's like, no, this is just a human who like knows what he's worth. But you do have to use these with great responsibility. Like, be responsible, right? These are tools, and you can do good with them. You can do harm with them. Be responsible, okay? I've done harm with them. I didn't mean to do harm with them. As you get better at using them, you will fine tune and become more surgical with their use, and you will cause less people to feel upset. Hopefully, ideally, using negative assertion just diffuses the entire conversation and makes them fall in love with you, right? Or at least respect you a lot more. But nonetheless, a few more things, and then we're going to wrap this up. Kind of a long video. Negative inquiry. So negative inquiry, a skill that teaches the active prompting of criticism in order to use the information, if helpful, or exhaust it if manipulative, while prompting your critic to be more assertive, less dependent on manipulative ploys. So this is, hey, spell it out. Am I doing a bad job at this? So this is your boss walking up to you and saying, hey, you're yada, yada, yada. You're not doing great this quarter. You need to be like this. And you say, oh, okay. Is there anything else that I'm not doing good? And then he'll say, yeah, also you need to shower more. People are complaining when you go over to the water cooler. They say it smells. And you say, oh, you can fog, and you can say, you're right. Maybe I do need to wash. Maybe I do need to take some more showers. And then you could say, maybe I could do a better job at writing the memos in the morning, right? How about that as well? That would be another example of negative inquiry, right? So prompting them for more criticism. And he says, yeah, you could do a better job of writing the memos in the morning, as a matter of fact. And how about you start doing X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada as well. And you say, wow, yeah, I didn't realize I was such a bad employee, right? Or I didn't realize how I could be perceived as such a bad employee. I'm going to have to get my act together real soon, right? Is there anything else that I could do to be a better employee in your eyes, sir? Right? And again, negative inquiry. Give me more criticism. Give me more feedback if useful. And if they're actually trying to give you constructive criticism, it will be very easy for them to say what it is that you need to do better. If they're just trying to manipulate you and like try to knock you down a peg, they're going to be like flabbergasted when you ask for more criticism, and they're going to run out of ammunition very quickly. Okay, you'll be able to tell when it's genuine and when it's not genuine as you continue to practice. All right. Self-disclosure. So this is a skill that teaches the acceptance and initiation of discussion of both the positive and negative aspects of your personality, behavior, lifestyle, intelligence to enhance social communication and reduce manipulation. So this is almost like getting ahead of the gun, right? That's how I see it, right? This is, hey, just so you know, I'm not the best typer. While you're at your job interview, you just throw it out there. You're almost like giving them a hand up, right? I guess this would like the best way to say it for the things that you're insecure about, and that you're insecure about them, and you haven't quite gotten over that insecurity, or you haven't quite gained competence, and you don't want them to be able to leverage that against you, right? You don't want them to have a button that they can press. You just get ahead of it. You say, hey, this is the situation. Hey, I feel a little bit uncomfortable when I go to the pier for whatever reason, right? Or, hey, just so you know, I don't really like rock music, or whatever it may be, right? But you give a disclosure, right? It's called a self-disclosure. And again, it's just so that you can reveal those positive and negative aspects about yourself if they are relevant, so that it reduces the amount of manipulation inside the conversation. And then lastly, workable compromise. This is, hey, I am a person who deserves more respect just based off how I talk to you and how I interpret what you're saying. How about you give me a bit more respect, right? How about we come to an agreement that makes more sense and you stop trying to fucking screw me over, right? Come on, let's be reasonable, right? So a workable compromise, this is going to be ideal in a lot of your assertive endeavors, right? If you are pushing for like full conformity, oftentimes that's going to be bullying, right? And I've done that. These tools will allow you to get somebody to fully conform with you. It's not necessarily going to be the best. It's not going to feel good, right? It's going to kind of feel icky when they do it. You're going to want a workable compromise. You're going to want to also value them and respect them while getting your needs met to the degree that they should be met. Now, if you paid for something and they just didn't give it to you, by all means, make a problem until you get what you paid for and you get everything that you paid for. If you paid for something and they charged you extra because they thought it was something else, well, you get the money back that you are owed because you don't pay for free services, right? Ask them if they're going to pay you for free services. Like, it's unreasonable to allow a business to treat you in a way that is rude or disrespectful, or like you just don't care about your finances. Like, that is kind of disrespectful, right? That doesn't mean you have to be you have to criticize and be critical of them and be rude towards them, but you can be assertive towards them. Okay. And you can do so in a way where they have zero ammunition against you. They can't say that you're acting out or that you're being X, Y, or Z, because you're not. You're just being assertive. You're behaving as a person who deserves better, not like a person who is, kicking and whining and screaming and trying to get better, just that you already deserve it. Okay. This was a really long video. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I mean, I really do love this book. So I feel like most of everything I said in here was like just gold nuggets on gold nuggets. Hopefully you got something good out of this. Again, buy the book for yourself. I have the audio book. I go through it maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I go through the book at least like once a year. Long drives. I always love it for long drives, but get the book for yourself. It will be so much more valuable than listening to me talk about it. With all that being said, my name is Malcolm Tibbs. Hopefully you got something good out of this. Leave a comment if you did. Tell me what the best thing was. Share this with a friend, and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.